Hey guys, Jared with Nutrithority here, and today I want to talk about building muscle. But more specifically, I want to talk about why building muscle is the foundation for your fitness program, even if you're wanting to lose body fat. I want to talk about what it really takes to build muscle. It's a little simpler than you think, but a lot of people just don't focus on the two sides of the equation. And then lastly, how to implement phase one. Phase one being the bottom portion or the foundation of our fitness pyramid. And the fitness pyramid is really based off of building muscle. So the parts of implementing phase one really fit into the rest of the video of, how do you really build muscle? Why is building muscle important? So first, let's just look at it. If you're wanting to lose body fat, because you might be watching this video thinking, well, why do I want to build muscle when I'm really just looking at burning body fat? And you're absolutely right. If you want to lose body fat, you can lose body fat without building muscle. You can do it with cardio, you can do it with a lack of food, you can do it in a lot of different ways. Those are the main two most people use. But the problem is that you end up just being relatively skinny at the end of it. If you don't do it right, a lot of people end up with what's called skinny fat, where you got skinnier, but there's not really much of a shape to your body. Now, if that's where you want to be, if you just want to get smaller, nothing wrong with that. This pyramid's not made for you. This is for somebody that wants to build muscle and have that show through underneath the body fat. So muscle first gives us our shape. It gives the shape to a muscle so that you can see it under the body fat. And whenever you start to lose body fat, that's when the shape really comes out. There's a lot of people that are watching this video that have a fantastic shape. They've just never seen it before. And if they were to whittle away some of that fat and start to show off their muscle, they would see what kind of shape they have. And that's what I'm saying. First, you have to build the shape underneath, and then you can really show it off. You can lose the body fat first if you want to. If you want to approach it that way, that's fine. But in my pyramid, we focus on building muscle first. And that's really just because we have to focus on what's the most important. And so, like I said, it controls the shape. It controls how you look. It also controls, how you function in life. If you want to pick up things, if you want to be helpful, lifting weights, building muscle is always a great thing. Nobody is thinking to themselves, I wish I wasn't this strong. I wish I didn't have this much muscle. It's just never been a thought. Except for those people that come into my stores whenever I used to work in the stores, and they would tell me, I'm looking for protein powder, but I don't want to get too big. And don't worry, I've tried my entire life to get too big, and so far it hasn't happened. I've never seen it happen accidentally to anyone. Not a girl. If you're watching this, it's not going to do that. You're not going to get too big. You're not going to get bulky. Lifting weights doesn't do that. It does build muscle, but muscle looks different on men and women due to hormonal changes, things like that. So anyway, back to the video. So muscle is the most important thing. Number one, why building muscle is the foundation. It controls your metabolism. It controls your shape. It controls how you look. It controls how you function. If you're wanting to lose fat, which is another level up here at the second phase, you have to have something underneath. But more than that, if you don't have muscle, you have a lot harder time losing body fat because your metabolism slows down more. That's part of the beauty of the pyramid, is that by hitting the weights, by trying to build muscle the whole time, even though it may not be possible, by going through that motion, by doing that, you're actually keeping your metabolism engaged. You're making this process easier. And more than anything, you're showing a shape underneath. And that shape may even show up. You may find that with some muscle, you're more satisfied with a higher body fat percentage than you would be with less muscle because the shape comes through. Personally, that's really where I've landed. I don't mind too much. I'm a dad with kids. I enjoy food and I enjoy ice cream. And, I'm not into the dieting like I once was. And so I'm happy with a little bit of body fat. But the shape that comes through, the strength that comes with it, everything is important to me. And that's why I keep the progressive overload, why I keep training with weights. I keep focusing on that. For me, it's never going to change. It's a life. So on to number two. What does it really take to build muscle? And that's really a pretty simple question and answer for the most part. There's two sides to an equation, right? One side is that you have to stimulate the muscle. So if you're doing a curl or you're doing a bench press, you're stimulating the muscle. Really what's happening is that if you take an exercise, if you take let's say bench press, because I feel like everybody's relatively familiar with a bench press. You take a bench press, what you're doing with a heavy enough weight is you're creating these microscopic little tears in your muscle. Your muscle is not strong enough to keep up with the load that it's using, so it actually starts to tear underneath the weights. And as you do these exercises, all sorts of micro tears happen. And your body then has to go in and say, I can't handle this load, this stimulus. So the response from your body is to adapt to what you're doing. So you adapt to a stronger weight. That's one side, right? We're gonna force the adaptation with progressive overload. And progressive overload really simply just means that you're trying to get better in every exercise. I say it's lifting with weights, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. I say lifting with weights, I say trying to get stronger, and I say trying to either do more reps or more sets. So if you're going to the gym, you're lifting weights, and you're trying to get stronger over time, you're doing progressive overload. There may be better ways to do it, but you're doing progressive overload, which is the most important part. So what it really takes to build muscle on one side is stimulating the muscle, going to the gym, hitting it. And there's a level of stimulation that is maximal where you really, I mean, if you've been to the gym and you've busted your butt, you know you're not going to get much more. But you're really trying to find that level because of the other equation, or the other side of the equation, my bad. The other side is recovery. The other side is that now that your body has this new force that it has to adapt to, that now you need to provide it the nutrients. You need to provide it the rest and recovery. So we're gonna break down the muscle with progressive overload. Here you go, I'm gonna hold it here. We're gonna break down the muscle with progressive overload. Then we need rest and recovery on the other side of the equation to help the muscle repair itself, right? So what does it use to repair itself? Protein. Protein is full of aminos. It's made of aminos. Your body will break that protein down, digest the protein into individual amino acids, and then it'll use those amino acids for a bunch of different things, but one of those things is muscle recovery and muscle repair. If you don't have an adequate protein supply, you're not going to recover muscle well enough. So really, you're looking at breaking down, stimulating the muscle, giving it enough time to recover afterwards before you go back and stimulate that muscle again. And you got to provide it the right nutrients. The biggest one of those nutrients is protein. Water, also very key in here, but we'll get into that later. So the process, stimulate and repair. Stimulate, repair. Take it over 5 years, you'd be amazed at what happens whenever you stimulate and repair for 5 years, especially when you keep pushing yourself to new boundaries. If you go for 3 months, you may not be as amazed, but you're on the right path. That's what's important. This is not something that we're doing for a short-term diet result. This is for the lifetime. This is something that should be sustainable, something that's a lifelong journey. If you want to get weak at some point in time later on in your future when you're 70 or 80 years old, that's fine. But for now, we focus on progressive overload and getting stronger. So the question becomes, how do I implement phase 1? What do I need to do? We've gone over this a little bit, but I want to be more clear, more specific to it, okay? So let's go through the bottom phase, right? Progressive overload. We already went through that. That's taking your exercises and getting stronger with them, getting better with them. Force your body to adapt to some sort of pressure. That means you can increase the weight, you can increase the reps, you can increase the sets, you can do it faster. Whatever can force your body to have to get better, let's consider it progressive overload. So there is a trick. I'm going to share with you guys a little secret here on how to progress. So for example, if you're doing a dumbbell curl, right? Dumbbell curls are hard to progress on because the weight jumps from, a 10-pound dumbbell in your hand to a 15-pound dumbbell to a 20-pound dumbbell. Those are big jumps. If you're doing a bench press, you can add the 2.5-pound weights on and only add 5 pounds, and you're adding 5 pounds for a full curl from a dumbbell. That's hard to progress with for a lot of people. The trick is, if you're going for something simple like 3 sets of 10 reps with 10 pounds, 15 pounds, whatever it is, the problem is you hit 3 sets of 10 reps and you're like, okay, I've achieved my goal. Let's move up to 15 pounds. Let's move up 5 pounds. 5 pounds on a curl like that is going to be very hard to do. So the way you do this is you just increase the reps and the sets. You force a different type of progressive overload. You force your body to adapt to more volume. You go from, the 10-pound weight that you were using for 3 sets of 10, you do 3 sets of 15. And maybe 15 is hard to get up to 20. Maybe you do 4 sets of 15. By the time you're able to do 4 sets of 15 with the 10s, guess what? you can now do the 15s for something close to 3 sets of 10. It may be 3 sets of the first one's 10, the second one's 8, and the third one's 6. That's how you progress. That's progression in your workouts. That's the most important thing that I could teach you. Do that and then repair the muscle afterwards. Do all the things that you need to do. Let's go through them, right? You need rest and recovery. Rest and recovery means a few different things. One of those ways to rest and recover is just to take time off from the gym. So that fits into a little bit of the program structure on phase 2, but it's taking time away from the gym. If you go 3 times a week, you have 4 days to recover. You're not recovering when you're in the gym, especially with the same muscle group. So you have to give yourself enough time to recover. So on average, I'd say 3, 4, 5 days a week at the gym is generally where most people can recover. If you're not very physical, go 3 times a week. I go 3 times a week right now, guys. I would actually say that I get better results and build more muscle at 3 times a week than I did at 4 or 5 times a week, and definitely better than I did at 6 times a week. But at 6 times a week, I was going more for fat loss. So I was trying to burn a lot of calories. So I was there more frequently because some of those exercises were cardio, which is not very important in this phase. So phase 1, progressive overload. Rest and recovery. Other ways you can rest and recover. Stretch. You can also foam roll. You can also get around and be active. You can go for a walk. You can do all those things where you use the muscle just a little bit and you stretch it out and you engage it and you work through those range of motions. All of those things are helpful for rest and recovery. So take time off, give your body a break, allow it to rest, provide it the right nutrients in rest and recovery. Things like a BCAA can help in this kind of situations to help with soreness and things like that. Then you move on to water intake. This one's pretty simple, guys. I don't know if I have to go over why you should drink water, but I'm going to. Life's better with water. Is that good? You think better, you think more clearly, your body works better, digestion's better, your performance in the gym is better. Whenever I've torn a muscle in the gym, I've always been dehydrated, so stay hydrated. Drink water before you go to the gym. Drink water at the gym. But really, water does a lot of different things. It does hydrate the muscles to allow for a better recovery. You do need the water in there. And with a higher protein intake, you do need more water as well. So how much water should you take in each day? Well, you can start with about half your body weight in ounces, and you can work up from there. Some ways that you can look for dehydration. Well, if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. It's pretty simple. If your tongue feels dry, you're dehydrated. If your pee is yellowish, starting to get darker, the darker the worse. I think you guys know this, right? It's pretty simple stuff, but some people don't. And don't confuse your vitamins. If you take vitamins, that's not what made you dehydrated. Those are vitamins coming out. So on the opposite hand, some people drink too much water. If you're going to the bathroom every 15 minutes, you're drinking too much water. If you go to the bathroom every hour, you might be right on that edge. That might be a good sweet spot. And then whenever you have to have a meeting or something like that, cut your water down for an hour before, and then bring it back in. But keep it about half of your body weight in ounces as a starting point if you don't drink much water. If you already drink a lot of water, get closer to your body weight in ounces if you can. Somewhere in between half and your body weight are great numbers. And as long as you're noticing you're not thirsty, you're using the bathroom frequently, your urine is clear, those kind of things, then you're hydrated. It's not rocket science. After that, we do have our protein intake. And protein is meat. If you're not familiar with meat, it's the chicken, it's the beef, it's eggs, it's fish, it's all that stuff. That's protein. There's also protein powder. We make an incredible one called Nutrithority. If you want a great high quality protein, you can use that as one of your protein sources. But you don't have to. You can use meat and beef and fish and eggs and chicken. And that should be the bulk of what you're eating every day. Protein powders should be there to substitute whenever you need it or in times where it's more beneficial like post-workout. So protein intake, how much protein should you take in? If you're not paying attention to how many grams of protein you're taking in now, it's probably a good time to start paying attention. Technically, I say food tracking is on, there we go. Technically, I say food tracking is on the second phase, and it is, but you should start becoming familiar with protein macros. You should start being familiar with how much protein you're taking in phase 1. And start to increase that number. If you're trying to increase it, you're on phase 1. If you're focusing on eating protein in every meal, because you should never eat a meal without protein. If you're focused on making sure you get extra protein in, taking your protein shakes, things like that, you're on the right path. If you start to check your protein macros, how much protein you should have, there's a few general rules of thumb. For guys, it generally is about 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So if you have a lot of extra body weight on you, you don't go with your full body weight. Yeah, pick the weight that you think that you would feel the best at. So if you're 200 pounds and you feel like you're really a 165, 165 grams of protein a day is a great number for you. That's a lean body mass number for you. That's a great range. For women, it's about that number, maybe 0.8, right? So, you know, if you're 120, 125 pounds for a smaller girl, you know, 100 grams of protein. But there's no problem with going a little higher. I prefer a little higher. Whenever I worked with women, I always put them on about a gram of protein per pound. Guys, I actually went a little higher. It's a minimum of a gram. I would go to about 1.5 grams. That stuff I feel like helps mostly with recovery. That's the side of the equation that helps with the nutrients, that helps with the recovery, that helps with building the muscle. You gotta take the protein in, your body's gonna digest it into amino acids, and then it's gonna start the recovery process. As long as you've stimulated the muscle properly, you've allowed it to rest, you've hydrated the muscle with water, and you provided it the protein intake. And the last step here in phase 1 is really pretty simple. It's called disciplined consistency. It says it's basically doing those things even when you don't want to do them for a long period of time, because you can be consistent in doing the wrong things, or you can be disciplined and not consistent because you're disciplined sometimes. But in this one, you're disciplined and consistent with these things. So that's phase 1. Phase 1 is all about getting all of this started, setting your foundation and starting the muscle building process. And if you're past this, you better make sure that you're doing all of this stuff. If you feel like you're beyond this phase 1, which a lot of you are beyond phase 1, you better make sure that you're following this. Make sure you have enough protein. This is the most overlooked. If I talk to anybody that came in my stores or anybody that emails me and asks me a question, they're all eating too few protein, because once you start paying attention to it, you have to eat 4 ounces of chicken for 25 grams of protein. And if I'm a woman that's supposed to get 100 grams of protein in a day, if I ate it just from chicken, I would have to eat almost a pound of chicken. That's a lot of food. That's why we throw in protein shakes. That's why we throw in other things. And it's really, there's more protein than just in the meat, but that gives you an idea. So we start here, we master this. Stay here until you can do it with your eyes closed, because once you start making your choices based off of protein in your meals, it all becomes easy from then. Moving on to the next step is a lot easier at that point. So focus down here and then move up. And hey guys, if you thought this video was helpful, please like, subscribe, comment, share, do whatever it is to help me get the video out to your friends. I really appreciate it. I really believe this fitness pyramid, as I develop it more, will solve the problems that you guys have in fitness. And it's a simple problem. You just don't know what to do and when to do it. This will lay it out, and I'm gonna guide you through all these videos. So I've got more to come. If you have a question, anything in the meantime, hit me up, Jared Ragsdale on Instagram. You can shoot the Nutrithority account also. I'll get it there. Shoot me an email, get on my website, do any of that stuff and get a hold of me. I get back to every email. And after I get through these phases, I'm gonna start recording some video responses for people that have questions that email in to me. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Thank you. Let me know if I can do anything.